Welcome back to Breaking the Silence. It's been amazing lately, and my glasses are reflecting. Thank you guys for showing up tonight. We have Jeroen de Wit with us tonight. He's a past life regression therapist, but he also has dabbled a bit in our field of close encounters of the third, fourth, and fifth kind. Before we get to Jerome, I'm going to talk about what's going on. Bear with me, I'm a little tired tonight. We have been, I have been editing all week. We shot this Wednesday with Bruce, and we got a show ready for him to go up next week. He was on our podcast. And we got to the shoot tomorrow. And that's not thing, although I do have thing back there. Believe me, I'll show you in a minute. That's my dog coming in. She can't stand it when the door's closed, so I have to close the door again. Oh boy. So we have 2 new shows coming up. Could these glasses be any more crooked? Oh, that's right. I'm not mirrored. There, that's better. I kept having them go the wrong way. Forgive me. And of course, tomorrow night at 6:00 p.m. sharp, we're going to have the premiere of an episode that where I talk about my experiences and how Mary came up with the idea for Breaking the Silence and everything that happened leading up to that point, because it's quite an adventure. So you want to check that one out. It was The Whisper That Roared. See, I'm even having a hard time remembering the name of it. So, and plus there's been things going on here with me and with Mary and odd things in the night and all that kind of stuff. It seems to be getting very, very active again lately. And be sure to check out Mary's podcast, especially the recent one, because she talks about that. And she reads a number of amazing stories. And she put a link in the comments here. We also now are YouTube partners. They finally made it official that way, which means that there are new ways for you to help support us besides Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee, and they're right down there when you're watching any of our shows. There's ways that you can contribute. Mary and I work literally 7 days a week on not just this show, the podcast, obviously, but the actual filmed documentaries we do of people telling their stories. By this weekend, we'll have shot and have done almost 7 of them already. It's amazing because the first one was January, I think it was. Was shot in December, and then the flood hit our house, and it kind of got interrupted. And then I cut the thing, we put it online, and it got like 150,000 views in one night, which completely blew our minds. So we're moving right along. We have lots of other things planned. Of course, Mary's podcast is wonderful. I like listening to it. There's something about her voice and a good radio personality and reading these stories. It's like somebody reading the communion letters. It's really great what she's doing. So if you have stories that you want to share, and if you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. You can use a handle, and Mary will read those on the air. So feel free to send us those. So let's bring on Jeroen, and I see he's there smiling and waiting. Hello, sir. Welcome to Breaking the Silence.
Hey, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So you seem to be doing well without headphones. So we had a guest, I think it was last week, that had difficulties with the tech. He wasn't real tech savvy, and we had this terrible feedback. It was the only show we ever had that on. So we usually use headphones, and that reduces it. But you probably turned on the echo delay. So
I didn't. I'm just using my MacBook. Is the sound okay?
Yeah, it does.
Great.
We're not getting an echo and a whistle. So anyway, thanks for getting back to us. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for following us along, being a subscriber on But Something Is There, which is how Mary found you, because she's very stealthy and sneaky and goes around and sees who's in there. You know, we found people like John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater is one of our followers, and Jesse Marcel Jr. is one of the people that follows and a whole bunch more. And it's just, you never know who's watching. But the fact that you're in this line of work and doing regressive therapies is right up our alley. And there's a lot of people looking for help. And Yvonne is so busy. We're always needing more people to deal with this, because people are coming forward more and more, as you probably know. I mean, a lot of the older people like myself have been in the closet for years. Now they're retired, they're no longer military anymore, and they want to get this off their chest. Can you imagine living a full life knowing that these things are real, knowing that there really are downed aircraft that they've collected and bodies and everything else, and never being allowed to talk about it, and then watching the news and watching people's reactions about the subject matter and laughing it off and making fun of it, and yet it's real. It's really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I was born in 1971, and the world that I came from back in the Netherlands, there was nothing that would allude to anything extra extraterrestrial or paranormal or anything like that. And I, as a kid, I never, my experience has been of not fitting in on this planet for as long as I've been alive. And it
That
wasn't,
sounds familiar.
I would say so, yes. And so I didn't have any experiences that I remember. I just knew that there were different things going on than what we were shown. And it wasn't until I first picked up a book by Nelson Monroe from the Monroe Institute.
Oh, yes.
About out-of-body experiences.
Mhm.
Then later, I picked up a book by Dolores Cannon with a little alien on the cover, and the title was Custodians. And I started leafing through it, and I was like, oh my God, this woman knows something that I know to be true somehow. Like, there was the first time that I saw something that I felt myself reflected in this body of work. And so I've been gravitating towards it. I became a past life regressionist. And my favorite is actually working with people that are either experiencers, or during a session, we might go into tapping into their other galactic personality. And I end up talking to them as a Pleiadian or Andromedan or from some other place that we
Wow.
yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, I have people in my office often sit there and they, we do a little introductory talk, and then I see them sort of hesitate. Like, they tell me like, oh, you're going to think I'm really crazy, but I'm going to tell you, and I've been doing this work for 18 years. I was trained by Dolores in 2006. And so I tell myself, like, I bet this is not going to shock me. And, I keep looking at them as they're telling me, and they're hesitant. It's like, and did you tell me the crazy thing yet? They said, oh, yeah.
It's terrific.
Yeah, this is kind of my normal. I love.
Yeah, thank you. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I would imagine too that you get into people's past lives. I mean, the stuff's all connected. Excuse me. My allergies are going crazy. But I mean, I have a very strong memory of a past life, and it's from World War II, and that makes sense because it would be the more recent life that I had at age 72, and I remember World War II very, very well. And I remember lots of parts about it, and I dream about it, and it's not like a crazy dream. I'm really there, especially when I was very young. I had dreams about it all the time, and didn't quite understand what was going on, But so you must run into that.
Yes, I'm so glad for you that you've had those memories. Yeah, I run into that a lot. Like, the people that find me, of course, they're not people that are looking for like, an insurance broker seminar or, to learn about accountancy. They're already sort of tuned into this sort of, paranormal metaphysical stuff. So I often get to speak with people that have extraordinary experiences, much like yourself. They've known that there was something other going on than the world that we've been made to believe, what it was supposed to be like. But yeah, people with experiencers, past life dreams, recurring dreams, lots of paranormal experiences. Like, to me, it's all the same thing. To me, it speaks of to me, it's kind of magical. Like, this world that's out there that is way vaster, and we're way more galactically connected than we think. We're not just a hubble of like human beings on the planet, and that's it. From my experience doing this work, through my clients, I end up speaking to the Galactic Council of the Federation of Light or these other beings, and there's lots of involvement with Earth, not just in observing what's happening on the planet right now, because it's a really interesting time, but also lots of these extraterrestrial races have boots on the ground, not only as hybrids, but also as, reincarnates as human beings coming from these other places.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd get to that. If you watch tomorrow night's premiere for our next show, which is about me, it begins with such things, nice. And you get to see it visually reenacted. In other words, my memories of coming to Earth and how I came here, which is real bold. There's a lot of things I've held back on because I thought they were too crazy, which is kind of funny when you think about it. How could it be any more crazy? But yeah, there's stuff that happened related to my experiences with the visitors that I haven't talked fully about, but I'm starting to now. And it's been helpful because other people have brought up the same things that I was kind of reluctant to bring up. And once they brought it up, they said, that happened to me too. So there have been people planted here.
I love that you do this show. You popped up on my YouTube feed and I started watching it. I stopped watching a lot of the sort of extraterrestrial shows because mostly what they show was like footage of these little dots in the sky. And it's kind of like, I'm beyond that. Like I want to see like personal experiences. And I really appreciated the way that there was so much integrity to the way that you portrayed these people. I watched like Daphne's story and this other woman that's also from Southern California. And I really, I mean, to me, it's really beautiful to hear these people just so authentically tell their stories. Like it's an experience that you can't deny. And they're obviously not crazy. And, working with clients that come in with the same type of concerns to, they think they're crazy or this is really weird that they experience, to find out that there's so many other people out there that have similar experiences. This is so validating. So thank you for coming out of the closet and yeah.
Well, I did that a number of years ago. I mean, when I first came forward, it was 1989. So
wow.
And as many of the folks here know, I was all over television during the 90s with Whitley Strieber, Vaughn Smith, Dr. Roger Lear, my friend. They're all my friends, and caused me a lot of trouble with my Hollywood career. And beyond that, it was life was an X-File, that episode, that whole time. So my late wife insisted I got out or she'd leave me. And then, I went dark for about 14 years. So
I watched your story. What made you come back to it now?
Well, Jilly passed in 2013 from cancer. She had a long fight with that and lost. And there I was in basically in Hollywood, and things were still happening with my career, but they weren't that busy anymore. And I met Mary, and Mary is not a judgmental person. She's very open-minded, and she's had her own fair share of strange occurrences in her life. So when I opened up to her about this, he was like, yeah, so. So that just sort of opened me up. And, as time went by, by 2016, 17, we started thinking about doing the film that I did about my experiences. But something is there. But we did it as a film, as a movie, not as a documentary. And I just started talking about it more and more. And then Mary had the idea recently to do this. And I don't see any reason to hold back anymore. I mean, even if I was to be harassed again, I would still keep doing it. They really can't go to the studios anymore and threaten to get me fired, which they did anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at an age now where I just want to get this out there. And if for no other reason, then it's to help so many people who think they're crazy, and that there's something wrong with them, when it's not what's wrong with them. It's what's wrong with the perspective of the world. Exactly. Not realizing, as you said, that we're part of this consciousness and this universe, and we're connected to everything in it.
Yeah.
And to go through life and not have that perspective.
Yeah.
So that's what did it. So
do you think it's changed? Like, do you think, I was thinking about, when I was listening to your story, like I remember back in the 90s when we had those shows, but they seem to be more like the sideshow circus, kind of like the freaks, like being on display, or that, not that to say that you were freaks, but that was how it was brought to the masses. Or it was like, small channels and kind of like the fringe of TV land, so to say. But now it seems to be more like mainstream. Like I just had a client who flies for Southwest, and he told me that he heard the pilots on the radio talk about, a UFO that came flying by. Like it seems to be more sort of public domain now rather than sort of pushed to the fringes. That was my perspective. What do you think?
It is kind of. I mean, still, if I was a pilot and I was flying for any major airline, I would be very hesitant to report them. Now, when you're flying and you see a UFO, just like in Close Encounters, it's a very dramatic thing. And generally speaking, usually you're not the only plane seeing them. And so the ATC, Air Traffic Control, will be talking to the pilots, and the pilots will be talking, and they'll be asking, is there any experimental aircraft in our airspace? And we've got an aircraft coming towards us. They'll see it on radar. They'll advise them as best they can. But when it's over with, just like in Close Encounters, they'll say, do you want to file a report for UFO? They don't. They very rarely want to do that because of how it reflects. The stigma is still very much there.
Okay.
In general, I forget, Mary and I were watching something the other night, and the interviewer went out on the street, and he was just casually asking people, do you think that people who've seen UFOs or seen aliens are crazy? And a lot of them said yes, right away. They're younger people. They just went, oh, geez, yeah, of course, It's better, but we haven't got there yet.
I wonder if I'm in like a bubble here in Los Angeles where I just run into
it's Los Angeles.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, I spent 50 years there or something like that, and a lot of things were accepted. I mean, I did some crazy things being a prosthetic makeup artist and a creature maker, like getting in my very realistic gorilla suit and going out on Western Boulevard and jumping on people's car hoods and things like that. And they just laugh. I mean, as real as my suits were, they did not look like costume suits. They were for film. And the people in that town are pretty much used to strange stuff all the time, around Hollywood and stuff. But when you get a little further outside, that kind of changes. And there really hasn't been. The problem with the UFO phenomenon, from my point of view, is that although there's been a lot of press, very serious press about UAPs and the stuff that the Navy released, and a lot of whistleblowers coming forward, they are separating themselves from the people who have actually been inside those aircraft. And in other words, like, they try to distance themselves from us because they feel that we bring them down. They're trying to get this to the public seriously, and then we come along and say that, we've actually taken a ride and gone into space with them, or been abducted, as some people call it, and have this personal relationship with them, and they're not ready for that yet. So I think we need to bring the public to the next level, that, this is real. It's just as real as the UFOs you're seeing, and we need to have a voice.
Yeah.
Again, that's why we did Breaking the Silence. So
I really appreciate it. I mean, to me, it's been a very positive phenomenon, like through the experiences of my clients. I've never heard of anything negative taking place with my clients, even though they might have a partial memory of something that happened and they might have related to it in a negative way when they found out about under hypnosis what it really was. It was always kind of like their star family kind of giving them some love, stepping into giving them some love from home, checking in on their systems and to download some knowledge. Those have been my experiences.
I really love hearing that, because during the 90s, it wasn't so much that way. If you watch my film that we ran last Saturday, it's called The Visit. It's a film that was kind of lost, and I did with Tony Hooper, the son of Tobe Hooper. Both of them were genius filmmakers. Of course, Tobe directed Poltergeist and many other movies. That film was different than the way you see things today, because back then, I think there was a mix of things going on. I think, I don't want to say our government, but the guys in the black hats were, for lack of a better description, were much more involved with the people who had contact with the visitors. And I think that they were taking advantage of the situation and taking people, abducting people, and confusing them, making them think that they're being abducted by aliens when it was them doing it, and trying to get information like, why are these beings so interested in these people? Why aren't they interested in us? We're the power of this planet. We're the military. We're the ones with all the money and stuff. What is it with these people? And they, I think, were very paranoid. In fact, I know some of them were very paranoid. They didn't know what we were capable of, or if something was being done to us, and they were scared to death. So a lot of how they went about doing it, in my opinion, in my theory, was designed to make us look at the experience in a very negative way and not wanting to have anything deep to do with it, not to make a communion or a connection with the visitors. And I think today, I think it was something that was hard for them to keep up. It took a lot of resources. And I mean, I knew people like Leisha Davison who, you know, it was during the 90s, and she lived up in Sierra Madre, oddly enough, where the movie was made about the pods. I'm drawing a blank on it right now. You go to sleep and you wake up another person.
Body Snatchers?
Body Snatchers, thank you.
Oh, wow, yes.
Yeah, and she lived up there, and she was an iron-fisted lady. I mean, she was tracking down where the helicopters stalking her were going, and she would follow them and find out where they were landing and try to find out information, and she was putting her nose in all kinds of places she shouldn't be, and they really didn't like her for that. And in the middle of the night, they hover a helicopter over the street. The whole neighborhood saw it. They lower down a ladder or something, and they go down. They go into her house. They take her and her roommate, and they take her, I think she said, was China Lake, and they called her a troublemaker. Well, that's one of their favorite pet expressions.
Wow.
And she got hurt by them and terrorized by them. And I remember her saying, they showed me a picture of one of the graves. I mean, a photograph. So, do you ever seen this before? And she basically told them to go themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Always liked her. And there was a lot of this going on. I remember another story. This is when I was working very closely with Yvonne and had lots of regression sessions, quite a few. I mean, over 30. And I remember one of the people there saying how they went to their doctor. And the doctor left the room. So she reached over to her medical records, pulled them across so she could take a look at them, and saw a phone number there. And she wrote down the phone number. She called it. As it turned out, it was to a base or something, and the person picked up and said, "How did you get this number?" And he hung up, and she called it back, and it was disconnected and no longer in service that quickly.
Wow.
So there was lots of stuff like that.
It's really courageous.
Yeah.
I mean, to reach for that phone number, but also the other lady that you just spoke of, the helicopters. That's really scary. I've only spoken to one person who had the black helicopters hanging over their head. Otherwise, the experiences of my clients, they seem to be more stealthy. I don't know, like it's no government involvement. It seems to be, I mean, the experiences that I run into a lot is people that, women that are finding themselves aboard a spaceship in their current lifetime, but at an earlier time, where they're with these little short gray beings. And in a session, I always trying to find out like what's going on. So I try to address them, but they were like very short answer, kind of like little worker bees. And so then I had to look around if there was someone else, and it was a taller being there. And they explained that she had contracted with them before coming into this life. As a soul, she had contacted with them. And she explained that they were, well, she said, like, you call us aliens, but we're really a future expression of humanity from a different timeline. And our evolution has dead-ended. We went through the upheavals that you're going through right now as humanity. And we decided that feelings and emotions were the culprit of it, that caused this strife and destruction finally. So we decided to breathe that out of our genome profile. And so they did that. And with that went the ability to procreate the way we do. And so they had to clone themselves. And at some time, like far into the future, that ability to clone themselves started running out, and they'd also blown up their new planet. There was an accident that happened, and so they were allowed to come back to our time in this timeline to hybridize with the human beings on the planet now that still have the capacity to feel and that have a certain genetic profile, in order to further their evolution and to create these hybrid races, some of which seem to be walking around on the planet amongst us, but there's also many that are just observing and learning from, like, how to be human, kind of from a removed perspective. That's also happening. Those are the experiences that I run into mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm familiar with all that, but again, it's good to hear, the public's asleep. It's easy for them to be right under our noses, right in broad daylight in public, and they're never going to know. I mean, I can put a mask on and walk down the main boulevard here, and most people wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah. They're
really, they're kind of in a box, and they can't get out.
Yeah.
If they just went out in the backyard at night and looked at the stars now and again and realized what they were part of and what they were born from, they'd start to get out of that box. And this experience has done that for a lot of people.
Which like being sort of abducted, you mean? Or
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time. People say that they would not trade this experience. I mean, yeah, it's been hard. It's been a gauntlet. They've gone through a lot with it, but they feel connected to everything.
Yes.
Everything that lives, and they have an increased consciousness, awareness of themselves, of the consciousness of this universe, and you never want to go back.
Yes.
To being in that box. Everything goes up, must come down. Right, left, black and white. Go to work, come on home, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And
doesn't that increased connection come with compassion as well? Like,
yeah, sure it does.
Not to want to partake in any kind of harm towards others, nature, the planet.
All of us can become enraged by things that are so far out of our control. I mean, like, God forbid someone we're close to being murdered right in front of us, and not wanting to in turn murder that person. But I think it's very possible for us to reach a point where we don't do that. I really do. I mean, you can feel it. I can feel it inside of me. Things sometimes will make me pretty mad, but I shut it down. I shut it down quick. Whereas when I was younger, I didn't have that ability. Not really. I'd get mad and I'd stay mad for a long time, and it's useless behavior. It really is. But it's emotional, and it's tied to who we are on a physical mental level as much as it is a mental level. And it goes back very far in time into our genetic memory, going all the way back to the early hominids of this planet, fighting for territory and food, and but we're at a point now where we should be able to come to terms with that monster inside of us and keep it contained. I mean, a very great movie, of course, is Forbidden Planet.
I don't know about that one.
You ought to watch it.
Forbidden Planet?
Forbidden Planet. It was done in the 50s. It's an incredible movie. I'm sure a lot of people here will probably start reacting about it. If you don't, then you should see Forbidden Planet. I mean, basically, it's about a race of beings called the Krell. And the archaeologists go to the planet to explore them. And they find this underground world that's still intact. It's all run by a machine. I mean, a machine that thinks. It repairs itself, and they're long gone. Something killed them. But that machine will give you anything you want, anything you think of. That's the point of where their technology reached, where if you wanted a glass of water, you just think about it, and there it is. You wanted food, there it is. It didn't matter what it was. But the thing they forgot about was the monsters in the id. And so when they became angry, and when they they didn't have control of those emotions, that machine would manifest that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a very brilliant story, and it still holds up very well today. So, but you know, I mean, how many times has that happened out there? You know, and at the rate we're creating machines that are very soon going to see themselves as being sentient life, and look at us. I mean, we've written about it a million times in science fiction. Probably the most notable is the more recent remake of Battlestar Galactica. Incredible. Never seen it. It's 4.5 episodes, and they go into this, and we're following that path exactly right now.
I remember sessions where people were like robotic beings of two different factions that were fighting each other because they had already annihilated like all the organic beings, and they were just stuck on programmed fighting toward each other for territory, and you know, in another galaxy. But yeah, it must have happened. Like,
it's all out there,
right?
All you gotta do is watch Star Trek. You know, I laughed. I knew Gene Roddenberry, and I worked for him on Star Trek. But I got to spend some time talking to him, and he knew.
Where did he get his inspiration from? Do you know?
Well, there's been a lot of rumor about him getting it from external sources. I'll just put it that way. But I can't verify any of it. But there have been stories, you know. And Gene's a guy who flew more than his 25 missions in World War II as a B-17 pilot. And if a good example is if you're listening to this now, and there's a show called Masters of the Air that's done by the same people, Spielberg and Tom Hanks, that did Pacific and Band of Brothers. And it's about the B-17 pilots during that war. And it's hard to watch for me. But I do watch because I'm so fascinated and so connected to it. But what we did and what we had to go through during that war was just astounding. And for Gene to have made it through all those missions with his navigator who designed the Enterprise, Matt Jeffries, and make it back here and have a better vision for us in the future, he's created Star Trek. So,
wow. Yeah, I love science fiction. Like it, you know, the possibilities that it tells us about. It's beautiful.
So tell me about your clients you're working with now, and what that's like, and you know, what different types of regressions are you doing?
Yeah, so I started back in 2006, and when I first started working, it would be me and the other hippies that were already sort of into this stuff. But I've seen
Hippies,
yes, like yeah, so or more like spiritually minded people.
Yeah.
And since 2014 or 15, I've seen a sharp increase in the interest in checking into this kind of work. Like now it's everybody from all walks of life. So the sessions are so varied. I'm a Gemini, and I really like breaking out of the routine. So for me, it's like watching a different sci-fi show every day when I'm working with my clients. So many clients go into sort of more mundane past lives, very simple throughout history, which is equally interesting to me because you can often use the information that they pull out of those sessions to verify their experience. And they're always really mind blown when they've sort of, you know, came up with this lifetime with all these specific details that can then be fact checked with historical documents on the internet.
That is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Like every time it happens, it still baffles me, like down to names or certain customs or dressing or like, yeah, or just like known historical figures. That's also really interesting. So those happen. And then we have people going into alien lifetimes, and it can be alien lifetimes that or like places that we know about, but it can also be like completely far away, other universe, totally different. That can happen. I had a client going to a lifetime as an alien, and I was asking it during the session, because oftentimes they start channeling these beings. Like, where are you from? Where's your home place? And she blurts out, M31. And so I was listening to her, sitting next to her, and I typed it into the search box of the Safari browser on my phone, and it started to populate results, and it pulled up the Andromeda Galaxy. It's our and so she didn't know that. Her current life persona didn't know any of that, but it just blurted it out. So I would say the Andromedans have been showing up consistently, the Pleiadians, Syrians, what else? Arcturians, quite a bit now as well.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
That's a vast distance between this galaxy and our sister galaxy, Andromeda.
Yes.
But then again, as Einstein said, it's relative.
Yeah.
Distance is relative. It really is. I mean, if you have the technology to travel from here to there, it's irrelevant. But just to think about us trying to, like, let's say if I wanted to go see you in LA and all I had was a horse or go on foot, we didn't have a car, we didn't have airplanes. It would take me days to get down there. And no one would ever believe back then in the Wild West that we could fly there in a matter of minutes or drive there in a matter of minutes. And it was impossible. If we can't do it, they can't do it. Well,
right.
This is a pretty old universe. There's been plenty of time for people to evolve way beyond where we're at right now. And there's people that are behind us as well. And we'll go there one day and spy on them or try to help them. Who knows?
Yeah, that's why it always sort of like it baffles me when people say, well, of course there's no aliens, because like, how would that work? If they're thinking from within the physics that we know now, of course, then we couldn't figure it out. But we only know now as much as we know, and there's so much that we don't know. Like, why would you discount that?
Yeah. Have you ever worked with someone that actually could name who they were and knew where their resting place was, if that was a mystery? Because this has happened before.
Yes.
With the book I've Lived Before, about the boy who knew he died in World War II. He knew all the people he flew with, their friends. He knew where the airplane went down, which they never knew, and they found it. If you run into that,
it's actually been made into a book, "The Boy Who Knew Too Much" by
I know the one. Yeah.
So this is my client. She came in to her session with this story that her son, little Christian, started talking to her about remembering his life as a tall German baseball player. And she was from a Christian background and had no idea of, reincarnation. So she was thinking she was correcting him, saying like, "Oh, you want to be a tall German baseball player?" And then he would correct her. He says, "No, Mom, I was." And she was from Agora Hills. And so she would take him to the Dodger Stadium. He had an interest in baseball. And he would have experiences like there was a large poster of Babe Ruth on the wall in the Dodger Stadium. And Christian would point at it and say, like, that guy was really bad. We had a big fight, very bad guy, to the point where she needed to like remove him from the area because he was just having a meltdown. And when they would travel, he would comment on what the elevators look like now and how they were different before and how they would travel in different ways. And so, kind of being pushed by these strange experiences, she finally came to see me. She was kind of like nudged by one of her friends that had already done a session with me. And she comes into my practice, and I told her what I tell everybody, like, I leave it up to your inner higher self to provide you with the most appropriate healing experiences. But we end up exploring this lifetime of Christina Garrick, Lou Garrick's mom. Her son in her current lifetime had told her that she used to be his mom in that past life. He remembers being up on a cloud and seeing her again now and choosing her again. And we go into this lifetime, this session where she describes her life as Christina Garrick in such great detail, like down to the patterns in the carpet, what she was dressed like. I remember like taking her to an important day in that life, and she was walking to the Yankee Stadium, the old stadium in New York, where she was going to see her son play for the first time. And she described what she was wearing. She was walking over the lawn. And this was at the beginning of my career as a past life regressionist. Coming from the Netherlands, I was like are these people making this up? I don't know this lady. Is she a con artist? So I ask lots of sort of lateral questions like, what is happening over here? What's happening over here? You're watching the game. Are you having any snacks? What are you eating? To see if those kind of things, those trivial details that you couldn't have researched prior to the session, if she knows about those. And she would come up with those. She told me that she was eating like roasted chestnuts, and being from Agora Hills, she had never even seen those before. And then I asked her, are you drinking anything? She says, yes, we're having a cola. Like what American-born person, would refer to a Coke as a cola. She would sometimes have these like German words that would come in. She was really identified with her life as Christina Garrick. And so she would tell me lots of trivial details regarding an award that her son Lou had won in or had received in Japan. She would describe it in great detail. This little necklace that had a bird on it. She had given it to one of her granddaughters or children, I forgot. And so, part of the work that I do, it's called quantum healing hypnosis technique developed by Dolores Cannon, is after the regression, we call forth a person's subconscious mind or higher self. And that's kind of the Akashic records or the universal data bank where you have access to all information everywhere. And so I asked it, like, why did you show Kathy this life today? She came back 2 more times and would go back to explore the same lifetime, different periods of it. And it told me that she was to excavate this regression experience sort of for verifiable details that she could go and fact check with still living descendants and relatives with of the Garrick family. And that she would write a book about it. And that this book would give access to a larger group of people to get in touch with this information regarding that we are eternal, that we're not just, one lifetime and that's it. Because the book would have this level of verifiability to it, but also the subject of baseball. And so courageously she did. She went to the East Coast, to Coopertown, and tracked down these relatives and descendants. And everything that she had like made up or like pulled out of her regression session was actual lived experience. So it really helped me at the time to really trust that people, whatever strange experiences they go into, it's really lived experience, if not on this planet, or another timeline or another universe. We are connected. We're really, everything is one, or we're all one. And there is ways to tap into that experience.
And there are researchers, scientists, and people in the know who have seen time and time again cases like this. And the fact that saying it's just coincidence only works so many times. You just can't be that good of a guesser with details like this.
No.
You just can't. And there's so much of it. There's so many cases where people remember their past lives. But yet they continue to sit on it, to poo-poo it, to not investigate it, at least not openly, and to keep the bulk of the population in the dark about it.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? People realize that they went on. So many people are out there trying to get everything they can from themselves while they still can before they die, because it's once you're dead, that's it, and it's all useless, it's worthless. So they rape, they pillage, they carry on. But what if they knew? They really knew.
Or the other way around.
It might change that whole perspective, and we may have less problems.
Yeah. I agree, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also the opposite sometimes when people sort of sacrifice themselves in this lifetime because they're working for a better afterlife, or, for something that comes after, and that's, to me, like having done this work for so long and having in my own healing journey, like it's really about living your authenticity and your joy right now, to really find out what makes you tick in this lifetime and to serve with that, to contribute to what's happening on this planet. Because as we are able to embrace our authenticity, we're able to have access to the parts of us that make us light and good and kind and compassionate, and we're able to partake or contribute with that on the planet right now, which is so needed, I think.
Yeah, I remember Camille talking about being over the earth and seeing these blue spheres of light and knowing that those are souls or people that she knew, and they were all about to come to earth again. I've heard that so many times, and it seems that when we're out of this life, when we're out of this body, when this body finally fails completely and we have to go on, once in that realm, you come back in touch with those souls again. But you also do it while you're here on earth. I mean, you meet people and you just immediately like them. You immediately feel this connection. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, you know it, and it's just, there's something there to that.
Absolutely.
And it also works that way with the visitors too. Like one of the ones I've dealt with ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I know her like family, but it's ancient. It goes back further than this life.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that with clients as well. Unfortunately, I don't remember having any of those experiences. I'm really happy. I just saw my first UAP like 4 weeks ago, driving on the 101, the silver ball in the sky. I was just so happy. But yeah, my clients explain that they have these same experiences, that they're meeting these beings from the ship and they say, this is my true mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now I haven't met you before or had conversation with you, and I'm hearing all the same things again. My mom, it's my family, we're all connected, it's all one. It's just these expressions that seem to be universal among us, whether we have all communicated with each other or not.
Yeah,
it's there, and it's on the build. I think it really is, and it could be that as souls in this life now, we are waking up to who we really are.
I think so. Yeah.
Are you running into that, you find?
Oh my God, yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, this is I'm writing a book about this right now, actually. This is what most of my clients are going through. So I would say that 95% of my clients are here as volunteer souls to help elevate the frequency of consciousness on the planet. And they're part of a program of the Earth Project that was started by the Galactic Federation of Light and the Watchers, they're called. When we found the ability to destroy ourselves, when we detonated the atomic bomb, they realized that they couldn't sit idly by and just let Earth ascend at her own speed. She was already ascending, but humanity wasn't. And they had been sending people down to try and uplift consciousness, like different ascended masters like Jesus and the other ones that I can't think of any other names, but they've been sent down here to kind of help people to drop from their mind into their heart space and to be more loving and compassionate. But that wasn't working. So they decided that they were going to not only beam more loving energy towards Earth, they were also going to study humanity, like to see how we work, but also to incarnate onto the planet as these energies of a higher frequency, to not only to anchor a higher frequency on the planet, but also to show other people how it's done. And so that often looked like people like you or like me coming into this life feeling like you don't fit in, and to have to first take on all the harsh, limited programming of this planet, where you learn that you're not good enough for being so weird in these many different ways, and then going through life and then at one point learning, maybe through like a rock bottom experience or a crisis, learning to start to love yourself despite the negative programming that you've taken on and that caused you to judge yourself. You end up having to embrace all of these parts of yourself, these aspects of self, that were seen as really weird or different or not good enough. But as you do this, you get to know yourself as a part of source or God or creator. And when I use the word God, I don't mean like the eventual Christian God, but I just mean like the universe. And so that's the purpose that lots of these people are here for. By going through challenging experiences, getting to know themselves in these experiences and expanding within them, and then becoming an example for other people to be relatable in this found knowing how to overcome hardship and to live a life of freedom and authenticity within yourself. Because that's really, when you tap into that, it is a descent from the mind to the heart space. And that is what I get told over and over again through the collective consciousness in any session, that this is what we're going through right now on the planet, that we've gone through millennia of externalized power, the patriarchy, all the different isms and systems that we've been part of that have been very exploitative and destructive and dehumanizing, that now through the individuals on the planet anchoring this higher frequency, but also going through the process of loving themselves and in turn inspiring others and giving others permission to love themselves as well, that we're now finally up leveling. Yeah.
I had First Coast Crypto. He asked if your clients have ever talked about the earth shift from the third to the fourth density.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All the time. So yes, so we've been in third dimension experience for a long time. We have been using that as a context to have specific lessons, but that we're now shifting, we're up leveling to the fifth dimension. Actually, just yesterday, I heard such an interesting facet to that because this client's higher self started talking about that the ascension had been sped up because of machines created by humans on the planet. And so it started describing that these machines had created a rift between the dimensions. And it caused a sort of a door to open between those dimensions, that some people now, and I've met these people, have their memories of their life are different from my memories of what life looks like. Like they might have, like some people don't have the experience of having gone through COVID as the world, or there might have been a solar flare that we don't know about. And it said that these, and it was the particle accelerators that had caused that rift. They were trying to open a door that it caused fourth dimensional beings and three-dimensional beings now to kind of mix and mingle. And the confusion that this caused speeds up the ascension, but it goes with lots of confusion happening. But yeah, this is, it's kind of a sidebar to it, like a side story to it. But yeah, we are up leveling to fifth dimension. And this is, again, why our experiences are now pushing us to move from the mind to the heart, to love ourselves and to become more compassionate towards each other, because that's really where this fifth dimension is. It is not in the head and gaining more knowledge. I mean, there's a need for that, but then the next step is to drop into the heart and to fully incarnate and live inside of the body as a part of source. And that's what fifth dimensional, because when you become that, when you do that, you will no longer want to harm other human beings, animals, and the planet. And so the solutions that we now use for our day-to-day living, they're still exploitative and extract resources. And they might dehumanize other cultures or think, well, we can extract resources from over there because they're just the little people, or it's a third world and we don't care about them. And so when you get to know yourself, you get to know God, because that is what you are, and you will no longer want to partake in those systems. And so newer solutions will have to be found where cruelty and harshness and brutality and violence is no longer an option. It's just unacceptable. We're not quite there yet, but this is where we're going. That's what the fifth dimension, for my limited understanding, is.
Yeah, well, there's a hell of a lot of good people on this world. I think they really outnumber the bad guys, and they don't even know they're bad. They're just doing what they do.
Yes.
But these people who are on this level are where our evolution and our species is heading, because that's the only way we're going to survive.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like what you said. This is what I hear over and over, that there are so many light workers on the planet right now. So since World War II, Dolores Cannon has actually sort of been able to categorize these different waves of volunteers that are coming in to help elevate the frequency of consciousness. There have been 3 waves, and a 4th one is about to start now, of beings or souls that are coming in that are able to incarnate with a higher frequency, where the body is able to hold that because of the waves that have come before, that you belong to, that I belong to, that lots of other people belong to. That's why we're moving up, we're shifting up. There's so many of us now.
Yep. And I talk about this in Saturday night's film coming up, but it's that I thought it was just me that felt like this was a mistake. There was something went wrong somewhere, and yet I kept it quiet. And then in more recent times, as I'm talking to people really heart to heart who have experiences, they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. Exactly. They all are saying, in fact, Robert Solis, or Bob Solis, who's well known for being in a silo with all our nukes and having them become non-functional, while UFO up above the silo was keeping all that going. So he told me about how he remembers standing in the crib and say, "Oh God, I'm here again."
Wow. Yeah.
And everyone will emulate it in a slightly different fashion, but they all, Camille talked about having to come here and not wanting to, and yet in my experience, there were many times when I was being harassed. I was also getting emails from sources like CIA and NSA, and I was being told that I agreed never to talk about this stuff, that I violated my swearing secrecy on this. And looking back on it now, I'm starting to wonder if this did happen and I did choose to come back and do these things you're talking about, that I also agree not to talk about it.
Do you mean like
maybe it's okay now? I don't know.
Like before, as a soul, you mean?
Yes. I mean, I was told a couple of times that I had a security clearance and I was violating it. How can I have a security clearance? I'm not in the military. I never was in the military. But I was taken by my own people at a very young age.
Do you know
of my connection with this stuff?
Do you know who your star people are?
No. If I really think about it, it's like, if I did come to Earth, and I did, we all came to Earth. We all have a soul, and it came from somewhere. But I don't know. I keep thinking it's the tall white grays with the very, very large eyes, the ones that are very sentient, not the little ones.
Yes.
And I feel like my connections with them, if I had to guess, it's actually pretty strong when I think about it, because that's what I've been seeing ever since I was a little kid. So, and all the times that I've gone to sleep and woken up in another world, an incredible world that was so vividly real, and in every single way as real as this right here. And I remember it so well. And I remembered there weren't just gray types, the big tall ones there. There were all kinds of different beings, and they were all walking around and among themselves. And it was a very beautiful place. It was a place where the thing I noticed is I for the first time, I just had no tension.
Wow.
No stress.
Yeah.
I just felt this, like a knot had been released. And when you breathed the air there, it was like being in a pine forest. It was, the buildings were subtly kind of blended with the terrain. There were There were vehicles flying over that were silver cigar shaped, which I've seen before.
Mm.
And they would land, and I saw one land, and people get out, and there were these like stewardess type ladies in like stewardess type outfits, and they were dark blue, and they were very human.
Mm.
And they were wearing wings, but the wings were inverted. They went the other way, and there was a little crystal in the middle between the two wings. I drew a picture of it, in fact. And I've been there more than once, and it's an incredible place. I can only imagine that's another world, and in that world, they've certainly gone past all the war and hate that we've gone past. It's just all gone, and what a sensation that is to feel that.
Yeah,
because we're so connected with all the other life forms on this world that we sense all the time the tension and the stress that's going on in this world. The minute you leave it, it's an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, that's a beautiful experience. I'm envious of experiences like that. I've had like meditative experiences where I would sort of go into worlds like that, but you know, I often vicariously live them through my clients, like through experiences like yourself. But yeah, I really want to echo that these different worlds are really like that. You know, my clients tell me about like crystal cities and beautiful, where technology is integrated like in nature, and it's all very loving and easy, and there's no strife, there's no you know, resources to be fought over. It's very much like what you just described, and there's many of those worlds. So yeah, that gives us hope. That gives me hope.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was the very thing they told me: is there's still hope. Don't give up. That was the message.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I am writing a book. I'm writing 2 books, one about my own story and then another one of my client's story. And the goal is to write about how intrinsically connected we are to the galaxy, that we carry alien DNA, that we are a hybrid species ourselves, you know, made up of different alien races, that our souls have lived in different places, and that right now there's also hybrid beings on the planet, you know, with the goal of people helping to understand themselves better, because a lot of people like you and like myself, we walk around with these aspects of us that do not fit the society that we see around us, and my experience dictates that it's because we have brought those experiences in from other planetary existences, like the world that you just described, to help bring that about on the planet here. So my goal is for people to embrace those parts in themselves, instead of what I used to do for a long time, think that I'm really weird and I shouldn't be seen with that, and I shouldn't speak of that stuff. But you know, it's helpful when we all uncloset ourselves, when we fly our freak flags, and the other freaks can recognize us and fly theirs as well. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so you have a pretty steady clientele.
Yes, I'm booking for June right now. Yeah.
Wow.
My full-time gig.
And so you actually have a place, an office or something that you work from?
Yes, this is my home that I'm at right now, and there's a little an extra building in the backyard, and that's my home. Yeah,
no, cool.
You know, it's quite lucky.
So it's very comfortable for your clients.
Yeah. And for me as well, to have a commute of 5 steps, you know, to work, I'm lucky in LA.
Yeah. Well, I was in LA. I did the same thing, but I would step from my house to my garage and workshop to make more monsters for movies. So, and aliens and everything else. So, but yeah, I did have to go to the studios a lot, and sometimes I worked at other studios in town. But yeah, you have a good setup in LA. So, where are you in LA?
I'm in Valley Village. It's between Sherman Oaks and Studio City.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you have air conditioning.
I do, yes. I can tell you no, yes.
Yeah. Living there as long as I have, you know, I came from the San Francisco Bay Area when they came down here in the early 70s to work in the studios. The first place I worked was Fox, and on the back lot there, and I was used to San Francisco, and I came down here, and the summers are 100 degrees, and I don't think I ever got used to it.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, I still enjoy it. The extreme of it. I'm from the Netherlands. It's a very cold.
Yeah,
climate,
I was
so,
going to say.
Yeah, I prefer the heat over the cold. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like it tempered. It's been a little cold for us here lately. So, Jeroen, thank you so much for coming on our show tonight. It's been really different, which is great.
I hope in a good way. Yes.
I'd like to have you back when you have some more stories to share with us. If you think you'd like to do that, I think everybody enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, very much so. I really support you and the work that you're doing. This platform is amazing. I love
I support you and the work you're doing. And of course, if anyone wants to work with him, what's that?
You want to ask him questions.
Oh, yes. As the door creaks, Mary pokes her head in. We're at the studio. We're not at home. If the audience at this point would like to ask some questions, you can see the chat, can't you?
I can, yes. Well, yeah. I just see private chat.
Him?
Let's see. Oh my God. I just saw it. Just I'm just going over it now.
Yeah. I had something really weird happen here while I was on the air here. It was a sound I couldn't identify, and it wasn't from Mary, and it wasn't from the dog, and it was spooky, but I get that a lot. So
yeah, I get that too. I see a question here. Somebody wants to know, First Coast Crypto wants to know how regression therapists make sure they don't interfere with the client's case by imparting their own feeling and beliefs into their story. It's a great question. We're trained to only ask open questions. So instead of asking, what are the curtains like? You just ask them to describe their environment. There might not even be any curtains there. So yeah, that's something that you have to really abide by, or else you get, an inauthentic experience.
You don't say, so you saw something moving in the room. Was it an alien? You
yes,
just never do that.
Yeah.
In the public that's not informed about this work, especially your work, they get hearsay from people, and they say that's what's happening. That the hypnotherapist leads them.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Yvonne, God, for I've known her for 33 years, and we worked for almost 10 years doing regressions, and she never did that, ever, not even close.
Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose of doing the work if you ask leading questions. So that is something that we're trained in. So hopefully all therapists do this. I for sure, this is what I go by, because you just get
down there. You're going to want to answer
because sometimes sometimes I'm really thrown off, because I might think oh, I bet this is one of those stories, and then suddenly it's a completely different story that I would have not gone into if I had just sort of steered on my assumptions. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yes. You got asked if you've seen any craft, and I know you have. So
yeah, just only one as I can remember. 2 years ago, I was hiking in the mountains, and I saw this string of lights, and I was like, oh my God, here they are. Do some nice zappy stuff, and it was Starlink. I was like, oh shit. But then finally a month ago, I saw a silver ball, and it wasn't one of those balls on the wires that are over the valley here. It was it was a silver ball. Yeah.
That's to alert us pilots that we don't fly into the power lines.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What else we got down here?
Somebody says, how can we tell if something is happening to us in a visitor aspect and not something mischievous dark? Has any regression gone into trickster type territory? I've never had that happen. So I can't speak from my own experience. It's always been very, very positive. This was also yesterday, somebody had seen a very large ship, like a mothership type of thing, hanging over the valley. I think they were driving down from the Bay Area. And when I asked about it, her higher self explained that it saw these gray type beings, but they were a little taller, and there was also a human military on board, and they were mining. They were getting some minerals from the ground. And when I asked about it, she said that this was like not a these were not members of the Galactic Federation of Light. They were kind of rogue, and they had, there was like an off the book sort of operation with the government. The trade had been made. They would get like mining rights or do something in exchange for something else. It was just a small part of the session, but that is the only sort of not very positive aspect that I've run into. All the other experiences in my sessions have all been very, very positive, where people moved from being very much in fear about the experiences that they thought they had to understanding that they're intricately connected to these beings that are coming to see them, and for very positive reasons. Even if there's implants being installed, it is to help our human systems to operate quicker and better, and to keep a certain frequency high. It's always been very, very positive. So, go ahead.
It's interesting that, many times in the past, people would say, well, why you don't have the right to do this to us? And the beings always answered, we have every right. Well, if they're volunteers, if they are actually the souls of the visitors in human form, then basically they're family. And if they install implants in us, and that's the case, then you can see why they would say that. I know I have two that I know of for sure. One of them most definitely in my ear, and you may have heard Whitley Strieber talk about the implant in his ear. I have one in almost the same place, and it's been verified by more than one person who tried to feel it. It moved. Even Whitley, when he tried to feel where it was, he said, "There's nothing there, Steve." And I said, "Oh, it's gone." And then I find it down here, and then it go back again. It hurts a bit, and it's still very active. And I think I remember when I got it too. So
you do,
yeah, but it's still there. And when Roger Lear was still with us, he said, "Well, why don't we have that thing removed?" It's like, well, Roger, I'm not supposed to.
Yeah. I asked about this. Like when people come in with questions like that, I ask the higher self, are there any implants? And it says yes. And then I ask, well, what are they for? And then it's positive stuff. And so should it be removed? And it says, no, it's helping them. It's not bothering them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for all you know, it may, our bodies are very acceptable to disease and genetic mutation and all kinds of things going wrong, and who knows, that technology being placed in us may be what's keeping us from having a lot of problems. So,
right.
I mean, I've been free of anything up till 8 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 72, and I never really, never been sick or ill from much of anything. I had appendicitis once, and things like that, but never any major diseases. So,
wow.
Yeah. But then again, it may just be good from good genetic stock. I don't know.
Right. You don't know. Right.
Yeah. Do you have any clients that have encounters with reptilians? Is it common?
It happens. So I've had clients go to past lives where they were reptilians, and it's not the ones that I've met, super sweet, nice reptilians. I've heard. So, it's not about taking our xenophobia to the galaxy now and saying all reptilians are bad. There are some that are good reptilians.
There may be some bad ones. I mean, who knows?
I mean, I've not encountered the bad ones. I think it's just because, just the work that I do, it's protected. But I've been described that there is this very predatory reptilian race that kind of like plunders different worlds and then moves on to the next and extracts resources, and that's what they do. But yeah, that's happened, and yeah, that's a thing, and it's also part of the experience here on this planet.
I'm just giggling because I'm thinking about Resident Alien and the way he talks about the reptilians. The way that you described that particular sect of them. So, have you watched the show Resident Alien?
Like the first episode, and then something else came up, and I forgot to watch it.
If you stick with it, you'll be amazed. You have to keep in mind that the people involved in that show know what we know.
Oh, they are. They do.
And they do a great job of having fun with it.
Nice.
You know, that's another aspect to this whole thing, that when I was first discovering that all the UFOs I'd seen over the years and all the strange things that happened to me, when I saw communion and I said, Jesus, this stuff is actually happening to me. I took it very seriously. So when people made fun of it or didn't treat it real seriously, it bothered me. But as I've gotten older, I think it's really good to have a sense of humor about it. And I don't think that people should take it personally, you know, because if you can't laugh about it, I don't know. I just don't think it's good. I mean, it's so crazy and ridiculous sometimes. I mean, Whitley and I will have long conversations and we just crack ourselves up because, you know, we're talking about the stuff that's happened to, like, this happened to him, that happened to me too, you know, and how odd some of the things are, and we just have to laugh and make, you know, humor out of it. So
yes, I mean, it dismantles like the stress and the fear about it, doesn't it?
It does. And I think humans, you know, that's why they respond so well to comedy. I mean, the best comedians work the way they do because they're commenting in actual life, day-to-day life. I mean, Ricky Gervais is a good example of that. He's absolutely I can't say it on the air, but I do love him. I do love him. I mean, he would roll his eyes in his head about this stuff, but at the same time, you know, he'd let you be about it. Whereas other people who are judgmental about this stuff, or believing in life after death, or is there a God, and that kind of thing, the hardened skeptics, they're vicious, and I question why that is. But you know, even Neil Tyson's fairly, you know, he's a good person, you know. So that's all you have to be. You don't have to believe us. You just have to be a good person.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's okay to laugh.
I agree. Yeah, I'm glad that the shows are out.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, because it does trickle into, you know, kind of like it makes it more normal to talk about that stuff.
There's someone here talking. Justin's talking about I'm extremely interested in being having regression done. There are a lot of people who are.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, but I saw a question like how you can become a therapist. You can go to QHHTofficial.com, and you can both find online courses to become one, and also to find practitioners in your area. So it'll have this like really neat drop-down menu where you can just fill in your country, your state, and then your city, and then see who's close to you. I would, of course, love to work with you if you're in the LA area, or if you're willing to come down. But that's how you can both find, you know, how to become a therapist yourself, but also to find a local practitioner.
Yeah, and you have to work hard for it too, because my late wife Jillian, oddly enough, as you're asking me to leave the whole thing, it terrified her. When she finally saw that things really were, as I said, she really wanted me to get away from it. But then she, before she passed away, she was studying to be a hypnotherapist, not for this subject. And I saw how much work she had to put into it, how many classes she went and tests and all the homework she had. I mean, you don't just go and get a therapist license, because they want to make sure that you're on the up and up, that you're legit, that you're going to do this work the right way. They don't care what you're going to use it for necessarily, but they do want to make sure you're properly trained. Exactly. Before your certification. So, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of work. So, but it was worth it to you. You find it, you love the work, and it's something you're so passionate about, and you're helping people. And, you know, that's a beautiful thing.
Very much. I'm trying to access the chat, but it doesn't let me do it.
Server can't be found.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the movie. I'll tell you, Damon, about that film. it's a long story. I'm not going to go into it now, but I was initially involved in it. If you read the book and you watch the movie, it's not that different from reading Travis Walton's book, Fire in the Sky, and seeing the movie. They're two different animals. And the reason for that is because in film, the people that put up lots of money to make movies like this want it their way. They want it the way that makes money. And that means if they're going to change how things really happen, such as Travis Walton's abduction experience and a lot of this stuff in Communion, they're going to do it if it means box office. Whereas if I had been able to make the film and direct the film, Communion, I wouldn't change the thing about the book. So if you have seen the film, thought the film was great, you really need to go back. You need to go read the book, because it's the real deal. And it's the book that really kicked. It's why you and I are here tonight. That book opened it up wide, because all these people out there, they thought it just happened to them, that it was some weird thing that happened when they were a kid or an adult growing up. And when they read that book, well, when they saw that face on the book, he sold 10 million books. The first year that book was out, 10 million.
Wow.
Yeah. New York Times bestseller and all that stuff. And and I remember he was on every single talk show. Oprah, he wasn't on Tonight Show. I don't think so. I know he's on with Letterman and a lot of other people. So it really got out there. And it reached the public massively. And so, that's why he got thousands and thousands of letters. But most of those people wanted to remain anonymous.
That's right.
And do you find that in your practice, that people really don't want their families to know, or they don't want their job to find out, their work and things like that? Because I still find that.
Yeah, I mean, I see more openness, like people. And during the session, we might also work on that for people to become more visible with it. So, I mean, I see it still happening that people want it to be not known, but also more openness about it, I would say. They might have shared their experiences as kids, like being taken, or talked to their mom and dad about it. And it's just been a part of the discourse in the family. But both ways, I would say.
Again, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I've had a really good time. It's been wonderful talking with you. I'd love to talk with you more in the future. Maybe have you come up visit the studio.
I would love to. I drive to Hawaii all the time to go hiking and stuff. So you're in Ventura, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, we live the Channel Islands are right out there, and we're dying to go hiking out on those islands. They're incredible. You can take a boat out to them, and they're completely, there's no humans living on them.
The Channel Islands, yes.
But also you can see our studio and all the wild things that are here from my career. And
that'd be wonderful. I would love to
enjoy it. So
yes.
This is your last chance to ask Jeroen if you have a question, and or me. And then we're going to sign off. Great discussion. Thanks. You're very, very welcome, Thunderstone. You really are. You can find us for a while after the show in our Discord server, which you guys have been populating more and more, and we've been enjoying that too. And a lot of you have been sharing your private stories there. And again, if you want them to be read by Mary on the podcast, we'd love to have your stories. So, Jeroen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Give you a hug.
Big hug. And thank you, everybody, joining as well today. You're part of the Breaking the Silence.
And so are you, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay.
I hope to see you again.
All right. You will very soon. And feel free to contact us anytime you like and come up and take a visit.
I look forward to it.
Well, good night. We're going to sign off, and remember Saturday night, 6 o'clock. You're going to see me spill my guts about a few things and show you what it was like, visually speaking, what I remember. So be sure to tune in. And I love you guys a whole bunch, and thank you so much for your support and being part of Breaking the Silence. Good night.